I haven't eaten in nearly 48 hours, and yesterday someone threatened to call the cops on me. So now seems like a good time to record this. So let me go back to the beginning. Or actually, no, let me jump ahead. I am currently in Nicaragua. Yesterday morning, I was still in Costa Rica. So I bought a bus ticket a couple days ago to go from San Jose, Costa Rica to Managua, Nicaragua. And the bus left at 7 p.m. or a.m. was supposed to arrive at 4, so a journey of 9 hours. Turns out it took way longer than that. So woke up at 5 a.m. so I would have time to, get up, brush my teeth, go to the bus station, not be late, fill out all the necessary paperwork. Turns out what they didn't tell me when I bought the ticket a couple of days ago was, oh, you need to pay the outgoing tax for when you leave the country, and you can only pay cash. And by then I'm like, I'm leaving the country, I'm gonna spend all my cash. So by then I had no cash left. And I'm like, what can I do? The woman's like, oh, it's fine. You can go, and at the border you can pay by card. So that's what I did. Got on the bus. By the way, we left 30 minutes late, so not a good start. Especially considering the fact that once I crossed the border, my SIM card would stop working, so I would no longer have access to the internet, which means when I got to my destination, I wouldn't have internet, so I can't call an Uber to take me to my destination, and I probably wouldn't have cash because, how am I going to exchange the cash going over the land border? You only have like exchange bureaus and airports. So I'm showing up there, no cash, no internet, and hoping, and no working SIM card. So I'm just like, my plan was like, all right, we're supposed to get there at 4. I found a store that sells SIM cards 30 minutes away. That gives me half an hour to walk there. Assuming we're on time, I'll get at the store at 4:30. That'll give me time to buy the SIM card. Then I'll have internet and everything will be great. If I'm lucky, I can also find an ATM to take money out. Now, of course, in the back of my mind, there's the thought that maybe my cards won't work because last country I went to, when I arrived in Costa Rica, my debit card didn't work and didn't work the entire time I was there. Even though the bank is like, nope, everything's fine on our end. I wasn't able to, and I had to use my credit card to take money out. So, charge interest. Anyway, that's beside the point. So there's all that going in the back of my mind, but I'm like, as long as we get there on time, I'll be okay. So get on the bus, not able to pay the exit the exit fee for the country. I was able to pay at the border, so luckily that was good. The only problem is when I was at the border, no one told me that I needed cash to pay the incoming, like the entering the country tax for Nicaragua. It wasn't that much. It was $3 US, but no one told me that I couldn't pay by card. No one told me there was a tax, and no one told me I needed cash. So I'm like, what do I do? I don't have any cash. They're like, we only accept cash. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't have any cash. They're like, but we only accept cash. I'm like, yes, but I don't have any cash there, but we only accept cash. And this went back and forth long enough that I'm like, am I stuck in a weird, messed up loop? So eventually I'm like, all right, is there an ATM? They're like, nope. I'm like, where's the nearest ATM? They're like, 35 minutes down the road. I'm like, okay, there's no closer ATM. They're like, nope. I'm like, okay, what are my options? They're like, you gotta go speak to someone on the bus, get them to lend you money, and then when you get to the ATM, pay them back. So I see the guy that I was sitting to next to the bus. Luckily, he spoke English, so I went up to him and explained the situation. And the two people who was with, one of them said, oh, there's an ATM back where we were before. When we crossed the border back in Costa Rica, when I paid the exit tax with my credit card, and I'm like, of all the people that I spoke to that day, it's like, person who sold me the bus ticket, person who told me I had to pay the exit tax, the person at the border who made me pay the exit tax with my credit card, the bus driver, it's like every single step of the way, someone could have said, hey, by the way, you're going to need to pay an entry tax to get into the country, and you can only pay cash. That would have been nice to know. No one told me. So I eventually get to the border, and that's when I realized, like, crap, I need to go back. So luckily, someone's like, there's an ATM back there. So I had to cross the border to get back to Costa Rica, to go to the ATM, to take out money, and then come back and pay it to get over. And the thing is, I'm like, okay, we're on the bus, like everyone's crossing. By the time I do that, I'll be the last person crossing. For all I know, I'm going to get across customs, and the bus is going to be gone. So I'm like, all right, let's just walk back as quickly as I can. Luckily, getting back over the border by foot was very easy, especially when I'm like, I need cash to pay. So I'm assuming that happens quite often because they really didn't seem too surprised. So get back, get to the ATM, try my credit card because as I mentioned in Costa Rica, my debit card is not working. Now my credit card doesn't work. And I'm like, great, I don't have any cash. The only way to take out cash in this is in this ATM, and my credit card isn't working. The odds of my debit card working are very slim, seeing how nowhere else in the country did it work, but I'm like, I don't have a choice. So slide it in, cross my fingers, and thank God I was able to take out money. Don't know why it worked there and nowhere else, but I'm very, very happy because otherwise I would have been completely, totally screwed. So get the money. By the way, I took out US dollars because I was back in Costa Rica, so there was either local Costa Rican currency or US dollars. And of course, when I'm trying to get into the other border, or like past the other border to get into Nicaragua, it's local Nicaraguan currency or US. So took out 20 bucks US. I'm like, it's $3. That way I'll have 17 bucks left. And if ever something happens and I need cash, I'll have it. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking once I get to the destination at the bus station, if I need to take a taxi, 17 bucks US should be accepted, and it should be enough to get me to my destination. So get back, wait in line, eventually get to the front of the queue, check all the papers, and when it's time to pay, give him the 20, and he gives me back change, but instead of giving me back 17 bucks, he gives me back 7 bucks. Now in the back of my head, I'm like, why did I pay 13 instead of 3? Maybe there was a language issue. He asked me something, misunderstood. Maybe he screwed me. I really don't know, but I'm like, the bus could leave any minute. I don't want to risk missing the bus for 10 bucks. It's not worth it. So even if I'm getting screwed, I don't care. I just took my change, crossed the border, and got on the bus. Luckily, I didn't miss it. So far, so good. And by then, I only had 7 bucks left in my pockets. So keep going, and as I mentioned in the beginning, we're leaving at 7 and supposed to get there at 4. We left at 7:30. By the time we arrived in Managua, the city where we were headed, it was about, I don't know, maybe 6 o'clock? No, 7 o'clock? Anyway, way longer than it was supposed to be. And I was looking on the map every once in a while to see how close we were getting. So we're like, okay, the bus station was approximately here in the center of the city. And we were coming up from beneath, a little to one side. So it's like we're coming up, and we get to a point where it's like all we need to do to get to the destination is keep going up and then turn. So maybe a kilometer. But we're there, we get to that point, the bus driver just like veers off, turns around, goes back down, veers all the way this way, goes up and around, stuck in traffic of course, then goes up way too high, misses the bus station, crosses above, misses the bus station again, comes back down, goes like this, passes by the bus station, does a U-turn, and comes back. Now I'm like, I don't know what the hell this driver was on, but his navigation strategy makes no sense whatsoever. The only thing that makes sense, the only logical explanation is he's getting paid by time spent. So he's like, I'm just gonna get stuck in traffic and do a crap ton of detours to make more money. I doubt that's actually what happened because it doesn't make sense. A bus company would not hire an employee by the hour and have them do some bullshit like that. So there's probably a logical explanation, but from my perspective as a passenger and looking on the map and seeing him do like all this insane things, I'm like, I don't get it. From the moment we were there, about a kilometer away, to the moment we finally got to the bus station was a good hour and a half. So we just turned around in circles, got stuck in traffic for an hour and a half for no apparent reason. And ironically, we passed relatively close to where I wanted to go. And I consider like just being like, dude, let me off here. Now, of course, like we're stuck in traffic. He probably wouldn't let me off anyway. And I'm like, whatever, let's not risk it. Let's just play this out. Plus in the back of my head, I'm like, I'm curious, like, how is this going to end? So anyway, eventually we get to the bus station. Of course, by then the bus station is closed. So even though I can see there's internet for the bus station on my phone, I don't have the password and I can't get into the building to get the password. Luckily, I was able to ask the bus driver and he gave me the password. So now I have internet. I'm like, oh, thank God. So message the Airbnb owner saying, hey, just got to the bus station. I'm going to order an Uber. I'll be there soon. like once I'm done, open up Uber, try to order an Uber, only to discover Uber does not operate in this region. So I switched to another app that I used in Colombia and Colombia and Costa Rica, and actually I didn't try it in Costa Rica, but definitely in Colombia and Guatemala, which is Cabify, and that also does not work here. The third option I had was InDriver. Unfortunately, because it's only for this region of the world, the payment processing method doesn't work for foreigners, so I can only pay cash, and I don't have any cash. I only have $7 US. So I'm like, that's not an option. So I'm like, I guess I'm down to taxis. So when I came off the bus, there was like a bunch of taxi drivers like, taxi, 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 taxi. And I'm like, nope. But now I'm like, crap, I need a taxi. So I look around, I see the nearest taxi driver. So I go up to him, I'm like, you taxi driver? He's like, yep. I'm like, do you accept US? Because that is all I have. He's like, yes. So I pull up my phone and I show him where I need to go on the map. And I'm like, how much to go here? And he's like, $5. So I'm like, okay, so you're gonna take me to this location for $5 US? Because I'm like, I want to double check. I only have $7. I don't want to get into a situation where it's like I can't pay. So he's like, yep, it's $5. So I'm like, okay, cool. So we go to his taxi, get in. He starts driving off and then kind of like slows and he's like, what's the location? So I show him on my phone and he's like squinting. He's like 2 inches from the phone, like squinting, and he still can't see. And in my head, I'm like, oh great, he's blind. Now I consider, should I just get off the taxi and try to get someone else? But I'm like, maybe they're going to charge me more. Maybe I'm not going to be able to get another one. Let's not risk it. Let's stick with it. So eventually, I'm like, he's like, oh, show me on the map. And I'm like, well, he's like, give me directions. Like, I can't because I don't have data on my phone. I just arrived and I don't have access to the internet. So he pulls over, turns back around to the bus station. On the other side of there's a dépanneur, I forget how you say that in English. Anyway, and he goes there and buys internet for his phone. So he didn't even have internet. So now he has internet. Show him the destination again, struggling again to try to figure out where it is. So it's like he eventually hands me the phone. He's like, put it in. So I put in the destination, hand it back to him. He's still struggling, trying to figure out where it is. Goes out, goes speak to another taxi driver, comes back, does that a couple times. Like 3 other taxi drivers come over and try to like explain to him and show him where it is. And I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? I should just leave. But then I'm like, I only have $7. He said he'd take me there for 5. He seems half blind, very inexperienced. So even though I'm potentially risking my life, the other cab drivers would probably charge me more. I can't afford to pay more. So this is pretty much my only option. So eventually another cab driver is like, all right, here, just like press this button to get directions and follow the directions. So eventually he has the directions, we leave. Now, of course, the directions are like, the bus station here is like, go to the road, the bigger road, go there, go around, then go like this, and we're there. Now, instead of doing that and going around, he's like, boop, 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 boop. And it's like, if this was a normal taxi, it would have been like, okay, he's just trying to run up the meter. But I'm like, we already agreed to $5. Him taking more time is not going to change anything. And I'm like, whatever, like, I just want to get there in one piece. So just close your eyes and hope for the best. So, and at some point, it's like, we're driving down a road and I'm like, all right, we're finally on the direct path. Everything's great. Go, and after 2 minutes, he just like stops. He's like, the road is blocked, and does a U-turn. I'm like, I don't see anything being blocked. There's cars coming in this way. And I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm like, what is he doing? Is he trying to like, because that's the thing. Like normally it's like, okay, if it's a normal taxi driver and I don't know the price until we get to the end, he's trying to run up the meter. But it's like, that's not an option. Why would he do that? So I'm like, okay, I don't understand. So we go back, stops at a gas station, grab some gas, keep going. Eventually we get near the area and we keep going. It's getting like smaller. The roads are getting smaller and smaller and darker. There's more and more vegetation around. And we get to a place where it's like, the road is so tiny. It's like, we're like, what the hell are we doing here? And in the back of my head in the beginning, I was like, is this really the location, or is he taking me somewhere to like rob me and murder me or something? Like I wasn't really that nervous, but I'm like, it occurred to me in the back of my head. And then at some point, he's the one who's like getting nervous, like, no, this place like is dangerous, like we can't keep going. So he stops, and then I look at my map on my phone, and it's like, we're going at the wrong place. So I don't know what he did or another taxi driver did or whatever, but they changed the destination. So we were a couple kilometers away from where we were actually supposed to be. And of course, like by then, like it's super dark, so he's driving like super close to the like to the driver, to the wow, I'm losing my words, to the steering wheel, like squinting to try to see through the darkness. And in my head, I'm like, he's totally gonna fucking hit someone and like panic and drive off, and I'm gonna like be stuck there trying to take care of the person. And I can't call the cops or an ambulance because my phone doesn't work, because my SIM card doesn't work here, and I'm gonna have to wait for someone to come along and get them to call an ambulance. And I'm just like, no, okay, think positive. So eventually we get to that point where it's like, no, we can't keep going. Then I look on my map and I'm realizing like, okay, we're the wrong place, but it's not too far away. So I take my map, and even though I don't have access to the internet, the GPS is working. So I can see the destination on my map. I can see where we are. I can't get directions, but I can just say like, hey, go this way, turn left, go that way, and so on and so forth. So I'm guiding him as we do that. We slowly go back, miss a turn because it's so dark, we don't even see the streets, so we have to turn around, go up like a super steep hill, take another road into a smaller road, and eventually get there. And it's like, we're about a couple hundred meters away, and it's like a dead end, it's a small road. So I'm like, hey, you don't need to keep going, like, just leave me here and I'll walk the rest of the way. So he stops the cab, I hand him my money, and I'm like, even though it wasn't my fault, there was still that detour and whatever, and I'm like, I'll just give him the full $7 instead of 5. It doesn't really change anything for me, and I kind of felt bad for him. Then he looks at the money, counts it, and he's like, no, that's not enough. You need to give me more. I'm like, okay, we agreed to 5. I gave you 7. That is all the money I have. I don't have any more. He's like, it's way low further than I expected, and we got lost. I'm like, that is not my fault. I showed you on the map. You said $5. We agreed to that. I don't have any cash. He's like, you need to give me more. I'm like, I don't have any. You need to give me more. I don't have any. You need to give me more. I don't have any. That same kind of, back and forth, stuck in a loop argument I was having with the people at the customs. So eventually he's like, you need to give me more. I'm like, I don't have any more. He's like, fine, I'm going to call the cops. I'm like, okay, call the cops. I didn't do anything wrong. And he keeps saying he's going to call the cops, and eventually like backs up and turns around and is like, he's going to start driving off. So I'm like, screw this. I'm out of here. So I grab my stuff, step out of the vehicle, close the door, and he just drives off. Now, even if he does call the cops, I would be very surprised for multiple reasons. First of all, he's half blind. I don't know what the rules are when it comes to driver's licenses here in Nicaragua, but I doubt that he should be driving, especially a taxi. So, reason number 1. Reason number 2, we agreed to $5. He tried to get more out of me. I gave him more, and he still wasn't happy. We got lost. It was not my fault because someone changed the destination after I put it into the phone. And he tried to basically screw me and say like, no, you need to pay more. So even if he did call the cops, I wouldn't be too worried. So it's like, I doubt I'll ever hear from him again for all these reasons, plus the fact that he doesn't know exactly where I'm staying because he dropped me off a couple hundred meters away. And number 2, he doesn't know my name. And number 3, given how he was driving and how nearly blind he was, I doubt he can find the place again. So I'm really not nervous, and even if the cops do show up, I just explained the situation. I did absolutely nothing wrong. But yeah, that was the insanity of yesterday. Oh, by the way, forgot to mention, I didn't bring any food because in my head, I'm like, hey, we're gonna get there at 4, so I'll grab some food before going to the Airbnb. Or in fact, I might have time and just go to the grocery store and do groceries. So I didn't pack any food. I'm like, I'm just gonna skip lunch. Who cares? I've skipped lunch a million times. Not a big deal. But by the time we get there, it's like by the time we arrive at the bus station, it's like 8:30. So 13 hours since the time we left. Because we're supposed to leave at 7 a.m. We left at 7:30, got there at 8:30. So instead of a 9-hour bus ride, it was a 13-hour bus ride. And by the time I finally get a taxi and all that bullshit and finally get here, it's like 10 p.m. I'm like, the stores are closed. I don't feel like going out. I just want to pass out. That's pretty much what I did yesterday. And then I woke up this morning, ironically, I don't know why. Side story. Woke up this morning, brushed my teeth, and nearly threw up. I don't know why my body felt the need to throw up, because there's nothing to throw up. I haven't eaten in over a day. But he's like, yep, we're going to dry heave, because that seems like a fun thing to do. So that's how I started my day. Then had a business meeting / floating session with my friend Aaron. And we ended up speaking till like 1 o'clock. And then finally, once the meeting was done, I'm like, okay, I really need to go because I was thinking like, ooh, I want to eat some chili. It's been a long time since I had chili. And it got to the point where I was thinking like, oh, I need to prepare it. I'm kind of like fantasizing and preparing it in my head as he's speaking. And I imagine myself cutting the carrots, but I'm like, wait, I noticed there was no like cutting knives in the kitchen, just butter knives. So it's like, how am I going to cut it? And I'm imagining myself trying to cut the carrot with like a butter knife. And it's like, it gets to the point of like, I don't care. At this point, I would just be blissfully happy just to eat a carrot. So it got to the point where it was 1 a.m. approximately. I'm like, okay, I gotta go because I'm fantasizing about eating carrots, and that is not a good sign. So once we're done the meeting, message the owner of the Airbnb saying like, hey, I need like to get a SIM card. I need to go to the ATM and I need to buy food. Where can I do that? And he's like, oh, I can take you on my bike. So I'm like, okay, cool. That is definitely going to make my job easier. So takes me to the grocery store, which has an ATM. I test, thank God my debit card works here, so I don't need to keep using my credit card to take money out and get charged interest. So that's a good thing. Then turns out they don't sell cards there, SIM cards. So we went to another place that's a couple minutes away, got a SIM card. As I'm buying the SIM card and he's installing it and everything, like two representatives from Claro, which is the company that pretty much, I don't know, covers all of Central America and South America, like come in, they're like, hey, we're giving away free SIM cards. And I'm like, really? Like, you couldn't have come 5 minutes earlier and saved me the trouble of buying one? But anyway, by then it was too late, it's already bought. Like, it's not that much, but it's just kind of ironic. It's like, sure, keep piling on, why not? So get the SIM card, he installs it, doesn't work. We restart the phone, all right, fine. Everything works, everything's great. Unfortunately, instead of being valid for 30 days, it's only valid for 15 days. So in 15 days, I need to go back and recharge it, but whatever. For now, I have internet, so when I'm out and about, I can actually see where I am. I can use apps, even though, apparently Uber and Gabify don't work here, but InDriver seems like it should work. And I have cash, so at least I can get a taxi. So that should be good. So now I have cash, I have working internet on my phone, and then I bought some food. So now I have food. I haven't prepared it yet, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's been, I don't know, maybe 44 hours since I last ate, something like that. So pretty hungry. Ironically, coming back, it's like maybe 1.5 kilometers, 2 kilometers. And it was raining, so it's like everything's super muddy. So it's like super wet, super muddy, carrying like 40 pounds of groceries, haven't eaten in nearly 2 days, going up a super steep hill, like so steep that when I was there was a car trying to go up and it was like spinning its wheels, going forward a bit, slowing down, spinning its wheels, going forward. It's like, I'm like, wow, the car is struggling and I'm walking up this having not eaten in 2 days. Okay, that's happening. So anyway, oh yeah, by the way, since he drove me there on the motorbike and then had other stuff to do, he left me his helmet because he couldn't carry it on his motorbike. So it's like, I'm coming up with the grocery, like 2 bags of groceries and the helmet sticking out of one of the bags. Like my shoes are soaked, I'm sweating, going up the steep hill. I'm like, I'm just gonna like slip and break my face, all right? But anyway, eventually made it. As you can see, my face is not broken. Oh, that's definitely good. Let's see what else. Oh, surprisingly, even though I was fantasizing about eating carrots, apparently they don't have carrots here in Nicaragua because I didn't find any carrots at the grocery store or any of the other small like stores on the way back where it's like they sell fruits and vegetables. Did not see carrots anywhere. So apparently they don't have carrots here. So I'm like, well, carrotless chili, that'll be interesting, especially considering they didn't have any chili powder, so I had to buy chili sauce. I don't know how that's going to taste, but I think, having not eaten for nearly 2 days, anything will taste delicious at this point. So that's what I'm hoping for. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I also need to take a shower because yesterday when I got here, I was too exhausted to take a shower. And then I had my meeting this morning and I'm like, I don't want to take a shower and then go walk and sweat walking back and then have to take another shower. So haven't eaten in 48 hours, haven't taken a shower in 48 hours. Those two things will feel very, very good. Should I keep talking for 48 hours? Probably not, because it's already been 24 minutes, so I should probably stop now. Ooh, one last thing. Guess I'll give you a quick look around the new house, or apartment. So, dome, cool roof, and yeah, it's not the best. It's a little far in the country, as I mentioned with my story yesterday. And since I already rented for a month and it's non-refundable, I'm stuck here even if I wanted to leave. But I feel like it's just going to be very relaxing, like me just staying here, working, relaxing in nature because I can't really do anything else. So yeah, that was my adventure of the last 44 hours. Hope you enjoyed it more than I did.